The assembly will come to order. Chief Clerk will call the roll.
Assemblywoman Anderson, Assemblywoman Benitez Thompson, Assemblywoman Bilbray Axelrod, Assemblywoman Black, Assemblywoman Brown May, Assemblywoman Carlton, Assemblywoman Cohen, Assemblywoman Considine, Assemblywoman Dickman, Assemblywoman Duran, Assemblyman Ellison, Assemblyman Flores, Assemblywoman Gonzalez, Assemblywoman Gorlow, Assemblyman Hafen, Assemblywoman Hanson, Assemblywoman Hardy, Assemblywoman Howdigi, Assemblywoman Kasama, Assemblywoman Krasner, Assemblyman Levitt, Assemblywoman Martinez, Assemblywoman Marzola, Assemblyman Matthews, Assemblyman MacArthur, Assemblywoman Brittany Miller, Assemblyman C.H. Miller, Assemblywoman Monroe Moreno, Assemblywoman Nguyen, Assemblyman O'Neill, Assemblyman Orentlicker, Assemblywoman Peters, Assemblyman Roberts, Assemblywoman Summers Armstrong, Assemblywoman Thomas, Assemblywoman Titus, Assemblywoman Tolles, Assemblywoman Torres, Assemblyman Watts, Assemblyman Wheeler, Assemblyman Yeager, Speaker Frierson.
Here, Assemblywoman Benitez Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. May the record reflect that all 42 members are present.
The record shall so reflect. 42 members present. There's a quorum. The assembly will please rise for the prayer by Pastor Sarah Johnson of the Lord of Mercy Lutheran Church in Sparks, as also the chaplain of the Washoe County Detention Center.
Let us pray. Almighty and everlasting God, guide this assembly to be just in purpose, wise in counsel, and unwavering in duty. In the administration of their solemn responsibilities, may they uphold the honor of our nation and state as they secure the welfare and protection of all people. Give those whom we have entrusted with authority the spirit of wisdom in all things, so there may be peace and justice throughout the land. Holy One, you show us splendor of diversity and the beauty of unity in your divine life. Make us, who come from many places with multiple languages, a united people who delight in your different gifts. In all things, merciful God, hear our prayer. Amen.
Please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we go to Order Business 2, I want to remind or notify the membership that there is a 2-second delay when you wish to speak on the mic. And so just remember that once you light up to take 2 seconds before you start so that we can properly record it and be able to have it reflected accurately in the record. So with that, we'll go to Order Business 2, reading and approval of the journal.
Carson City, Thursday, March 4, 2021.
Mr. Speaker.
Assemblywoman Benitez Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move to dispense with further reading of the journal and authorize the Speaker and Chief Clerk to make necessary corrections or additions.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Go to Order Business 8, motions, resolutions, and notices.
Assembly Joint Resolution 7, introduced by Assemblyman Bilbray Axelrod et al., Senators Brooks et al., urging the Congress of the United States to pass the National Infrastructure Bank Act of 2020.
Assemblywoman Monroe Moreno.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that AGR 7 be referred to your Committee on Growth and Infrastructure.
Without objection, so referred.
Assembly Concurrent Resolution 3, introduced by Assemblyman Peters and Watts, requiring the Legislative Commission to appoint an interim committee to conduct a study concerning environmental justice.
Assemblywoman Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that ACR 3 be referred to your Committee on Legislative Operations and Elections.
Without objection, so referred.
Notice of exemption, March 5, 2021. The Fiscal Analysis Division, pursuant to Joint Standing Rule 14.6, has determined the eligibility for exemption of Assembly Bill 199, Sarah Kaufman Fiscal Analysis Division. Notice of exemption, March 8, 2021. The Fiscal Analysis Division, pursuant to Joint Standing Rule 14.6, has determined the eligibility for exemption of Assembly Bills number 121, 124, Sarah Kaufman Kaufman, Fiscal Analysis Division.
Order Business 9, introduction, first reading, and reference of bills.
Assembly Bill 201, introduced by Assemblyman Gonzalez et al., Senators Donati et al., an act relating to criminal procedure, requiring each office of a prosecuting attorney to maintain certain records relating to informants, requiring the prosecuting attorney to make certain disclosures to the defense relating to informants, requiring a court to instruct jurors to consider certain information relating to informants, requiring the victim of a crime perpetrated by an informant to be informed of any leniency provided to the informant in exchange for his or her testimony or information, and providing other matters properly in there too.
Assemblyman Yeager.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that Assembly Bill 201 be referred to your Committee on Judiciary.
Without objection, so referred.
Assembly Bill 202, introduced by Assemblyman Yeager, an act relating to gaming, revising provisions relating to the registration of a qualified organization to operate a charitable lottery or charitable game, and providing other matters properly in there too.
Assemblyman Yeager.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that Assembly Bill 202 be referred to your Committee on Judiciary.
Without objection, so referred.
Assembly Bill 203, introduced by Assemblyman Kasama et al., Senators Buck and Hammond, an act relating to property, providing that the authority of certain courts to grant a stay in certain proceedings concerning evictions expires on May 31, 2021, and providing other matters properly in there too.
Assemblyman Yeager.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that Assembly Bill 203 be referred to your Committee on Judiciary.
Without objection, so referred.
Assembly Bill 204, introduced by Assemblyman Kasama et al., Senator Hammond, an act relating to economic development, moving the Office of Workforce Innovation into the Office of Economic Development within the Office of the Governor, renaming the office and revising provisions relating to its administration, authorizing certain businesses to apply to the Office of Economic Development for an allocation grant or loan of money to defray the costs of an internal program of workforce development, making an appropriation, and providing other matters properly in there too.
Assemblywoman Cohen.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that Assembly Bill 204 be referred to your Committee on Revenue.
Without objection, so referred.
Assembly Bill 205, introduced by Assemblywomen Cohen, Bilbray, Axelrod, and Nguyen, an act relating to controlled substances, authorizing certain healthcare professionals to issue an order for an opioid antagonist to a public or private school, authorizing public and private schools to obtain and maintain opioid antagonists under certain conditions, providing immunity to certain persons for acts or omissions relating to the acquisition, possession, provision, or administration of auto-injectable epinephrine or opioid antagonists in certain circumstances, and providing other matters properly in there too.
Assemblywoman Nguyen.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that Assembly Bill 205 be referred to your Committee on Health and Human Services.
Without objection, so referred.
Assembly Bill 206, introduced by Assemblyman Levitt et al., an act relating to education, requiring that certain pupils enrolled full-time in a program of distance education be included in the count of pupils for apportionment purposes, providing that certain pupils whose parents or guardians are members of the Armed Forces of the United States are eligible to enroll in a program of distance education, and providing other matters properly in there too.
Assemblywoman Bilbray, Axelrod.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that we refer AB 206 to your Committee on Education.
Without objection, so referred.
Assembly Bill 207, introduced by Assemblyman Watts et al., an act relating to public accommodations, expanding the definition of place of public accommodation to include a business which offers goods or services to the general public in the state through an internet website, mobile application, or other electronic medium, regardless of whether or not the business is operated from a physical location, exempting certain online forums from the applicability of provisions governing places of public accommodation, and providing other matters properly in there too.
Assemblywoman Howdiggy.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that we refer Assembly Bill 207 to your Committee on Commerce and Labor.
Without objection, so referred.
Assembly Bill 208, introduced by Assemblyman Levitt et al., Senator Hardy, an act relating to education, authorizing a trade or professional association or labor union to collaborate with a school district or public school to offer certain training, establishing certain qualifications for a person who wishes to receive an endorsement to teach career and technical education, and providing other matters properly in there too.
Assemblywoman Bilbray, Axelrod.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that we refer AB 208 to your Committee on Education.
Without objection, so referred. And members, please remember, hit the mic button and then wait a couple seconds so that we can make sure that we get it in record.
Assembly Bill 209, introduced by Assemblywoman Martinez Zangorlo, an act relating to animals, prohibiting a person from removing or disabling the claws of a cat by performing certain procedures except if necessary to address the physical medical condition of the cat, prohibiting the removal or disabling of the claws of a cat for cosmetic, aesthetic, or convenience reasons, requiring licensed veterinarians to submit certain statements regarding removing or disabling the claws of a cat, imposing civil penalties, and providing other matters properly in there too.
Assemblyman Watts.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that Assembly Bill 209 be referred to your Committee on Natural Resources.
Without objection, so referred.
Assembly Bill 210, introduced by Assemblyman Yeager, an act relating to chiropractic, requiring a business entity that provides chiropractic services to register with the Chiropractic Physicians Board of Nevada, establishing certain duties of a registrant, revising terminology used to refer to a person who provides chiropractic services, revising certain qualifications of an applicant for a license to engage in the practice of chiropractic, authorizing a chiropractic physician to recommend, dispense, or administer certain drugs and devices, creating a privilege for confidential communication between a patient and a chiropractic physician, providing penalty, and providing other measures relating thereto.
Assemblywoman Howdiggy.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that Assembly Bill 210 be referred to your Committee on Commerce and Labor.
Without objection, so referred. We'll go to Order Business 11, second reading and amendments.
Assembly Bill 16, introduced by the Committee on Health and Human Services, an act relating to vital statistics, prohibiting the charging of fees for the issuance of copies of certificates of and records of birth to persons who are imprisoned, and providing other matters properly thereto. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in Senate and Assembly, do enact as follows: Section 1, end of Section 1, Section 3, end of Section 3, end of bill.
Amendments to Section 1 of the bill as a whole.
There are none.
Bills ordered general file.
Assembly Bill 26, introduced by the Committee on Growth and Infrastructure, an act relating to energy assistance, revising provisions relating to the Fund for Energy Assistance and Conservation, and providing other matters properly thereto. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in Senate and Assembly, do enact as follows: Section 1, end of Section 1, Section 3, end of Section 3, end of bill.
Amendments to Section 1 of the bill as a whole.
There are none.
Bills ordered general file.
Assembly Bill 35, introduced by the Committee on Health and Human Services, an act relating to healthcare, consolidating certain programs to assist senior citizens and persons with disabilities with costs relating to healthcare, revising the requirements for eligibility to receive assistance under the consolidated program, authorizing the publication, disclosure, or use of information contained in a request for a subsidy under the consolidated program for certain purposes, and providing other measures properly thereto. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in Senate and Assembly, to enact as follows: Section 1, end of Section 1, Section 15, end of Section 15, end of bill.
Amendments to Section 1 of the bill as a whole.
There are none.
Bills ordered general file.
Assembly Bill 62, introduced by the Committee on Health and Human Services, an act relating to the Nevada Able Savings Program, revising provisions governing regulations adopted to carry out the program, authorizing the state treasurer to apply for and accept any gift, grant, donation, bequest, or other source of money to carry out the program, revising provisions governing the endowment account established in the state general fund related to the program, and providing other matters properly thereto. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in Senate and Assembly, do enact as follows: Section 1, end of Section 1, Section 3, end of Section 3, end of bill.
Amendments to Section 1 of the bill as a whole.
There are none.
Bills ordered general file.
Assembly Bill 74, introduced by the Committee on Natural Resources, an act relating to pesticides, revising requirements relating to the maintenance of certain records of restricted use pesticides, and providing other matters properly thereto. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in Senate and Assembly, do enact as follows: Section 1, end of Section 1, Section 2, end of Section 2, end of bill.
Amendments to Section 1 of the bill as a whole.
There are none.
Bills ordered general file. We will now go to Order of Business 12, general file and third reading.
Assembly Bill 91, introduced by Assemblywoman Benitez Thompson, an act relating to nursing, revising provisions relating to the membership of the State Board of Nursing, and providing other matters properly thereto. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in Senate and Assembly, do enact as follows: Section 1, end of Section 1, Section 2, end of Section 2, end of bill.
Are there amendments to Section 1 of the bill as a whole?
There are none.
Remarks. Assemblywoman Marzola.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Assembly Bill 91 requires that at least one of the members of the State Board of Nursing must be a licensed advanced practice registered nurse. The member representing the interests of persons or agencies that regularly provide health care to patients who are indigent, uninsured, or unable to afford health care must be a licensed registered nurse. The measure removes the limitations on the number of consecutive terms a member of the board may serve. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Any further remarks? Assemblywoman Titus.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Point of clarification, if I might ask the bill sponsor or the bill presenter regarding the removal of term limits of members of the board.
Assemblywoman Benitez Thompson. Mike.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To my colleague from the north, I'm happy to provide clarification. I believe your question is specific to, will there still be a function of term limits in place, or does the bill completely strike term limits? Is that correct?
Yes, my concern with this bill is that a person can serve more than 2 consecutive terms or come back and serve a term again, that they can be unduly influencing over the board for an extended period of time.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Speaker, to my colleague from the North in District 38. So specifically, in last session, we had an omnibus bill that brought term limit provisions into a consistent standardized length for all boards. So in removing this language in this bill, what it does is just default to those specific standards that will be in place for the entire chapter versus this particular board having term limits that are set apart and different than other boards.
And could we clarify, if we might, what those term limits are?
Thank you, through Mr. Speaker, to Assemblywoman Titus.
Can't use names on the floor, though.
I'm sorry, to the Assemblywoman from District 38. Not serving on the committee, I did not sit through those comments and hearings on the bill last session to accurately state in a legal manner, but they do exist. We are not stripping this. In the hearing on the board, which all Commerce and Labor Committee members sat through and had an opportunity to ask questions of, we did have the board testify on the record that in striking this, there was consideration by the board as to the history of how this got here. And they, as far as they knew, this was boilerplate language when the boards were established 30-odd years ago, but that this would in no way negatively impact its current members, and that they were absolutely fine as a board with being in the standard conformity of other boards going forward.
I believe Assemblywoman Howdigy has some contribution to the answer as well. Assemblywoman Howdigy.
Thank you, Speaker. And I just wanted to help clarify that the Majority Leader was referencing NRS 622207, which imposes a limitation of 12 years on the terms of service of members on certain regulatory boards, including the State Board of Nursing.
Thank you. Any further remarks? There being none, the Chief Clerk will open the roll. Anyone wishing to change their vote? There are 42 ayes, 0 nays. By the Constitutional majority, declare passed and order transmitted to the Senate. We go to order of business 15, remarks from the floor. All right, order of business 15, Assemblywoman Carlton.
One 1,000, two 1,000. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Under order of business number 15, I rise today in celebration of International Women's Day, and I'm honored to celebrate again this session with my colleagues who make up the largest majority female legislature in the country. I never get tired of saying that. So the day that you're elected, you acquire the title. Then the work really begins to serve your constituents and to gain the respect of your colleagues. Back in 1999, this building was a very different place for women. The men I served with at that time weren't quite sure what to make of us, especially a union coffee shop waitress. You know, there's a political saying that's out there. If you're not at the table, you're on the menu. And my minority leader, now Congresswoman Dina Titus, gave me the very good advice, don't wait for them to offer you a chair, bring your own. Since then, I've seen so many glass ceilings shattered by my female colleagues through the years and have had the privilege of shattering a few myself. We were going to list them, Mr. Speaker, but I know I have a time limit. Let's just say that you're going to have to get out a couple extra brooms to sweep up all the glass that's being left behind. Not only are more women holding seats in this body, but they're also holding leadership positions also. But what I'm most proud of and impressed is how the women have taken on the role of public servant and expanded it to well beyond the walls of this building. When the pandemic first hit, I saw my colleagues all over the state spring into action, start making phone calls, and doing everything they could to help Nevada families survive. From unloading trucks, stocking shelves, boxing food, and helping families navigate the social safety net that they never thought that they would have to access, and did everything they could to help. And I didn't have to call them, they called me to see what they could do to help. The community needed us, and my colleagues in this body rose to meet that need beyond belief. I want to thank my colleagues for also setting the standard for other legislators across this country. Although this is my last International Women's Day within this chamber and within this building, I am so proud of who we are, the work that we have done, and how far we have come. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Assemblywoman Roberts.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today I rise in support of International Women's Day during Women's History Month. On this date, 102 years ago, just before the passage of the 19th Amendment, Sheriff Clara Crowell was sworn in as the first female sheriff and law enforcement officer in Nevada history. She was the daughter of a pioneer Austin family, educated in local schools, and worked as a waitress before marrying George Crowell, the rancher who worked as a stagecoach driver before being elected sheriff. He died of an illness with 2 years left on his term. Most of the citizens of Austin assumed that Deputy Thomas White would take over until the next election, but among the applicants for the position was the sheriff's widow, Clara. The people of Austin circulated a petition asking the Lander County Commissioners to name her to the job, and they did unanimously. According to one account, she was told that she would be sheriff in name only, but she replied that she intended to be the sheriff in fact, and indeed she was. Finishing out her husband's terms, she broke up fights in saloons, rounded up horse thieves, and even went undercover investigating and arresting bootleggers and a fugitive. She helped tame Nevada's wild formative years and broke down barriers in our battle-born state. And on International Women's Day, I am honored to be serving 2 terms in the largest female majority legislature in the country. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Assemblywoman Torres.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Order of Business 15.
Order of Business 15.
Today, I too rise in support of International Women's Day, a day that we use to celebrate the achievements of women here in Nevada and across the nation and globe, and to recognize how far we have come. I'm the second youngest woman ever elected to serve in this body, and I will forever be honored that I, too, am a part of the historic first female majority state legislature. Nevada has always been ahead of the curve when it comes to women not just serving in the legislature, but leading. Many of my colleagues are examples of this, but so are the grocery store workers, the casino workers, the teachers, the doctors, the labor organizers throughout our great state of Nevada. It wasn't until high school that I saw another woman serve in this legislative body who looked like me in this chamber. My colleague from Assembly District 27 and 3 other Latina women were elected to serve in this legislative body not too long ago. When I saw colleagues, like my colleague from Assembly District 27, doing the work that she was doing for hardworking Nevada families, I knew that I could do that work for our community as well. My niece turns 3 years old tomorrow. When she was not even a year old, she sat on the legislative floor and watched as a female majority was sworn in. I am proud that my niece will never know a time when there wasn't a woman who looked like her serving in this legislative body. In the words of the great civil rights activist Dolores Huerta, we do need women in civic life. We do need women to run for office, to be in political office. We need a feminist to be at the table when decisions are being made so that the right decisions will be made. I hope that we continue to shatter glass ceilings so that young girls today will never have to worry about how to break them, but rather how to climb together. Today, I honor the strong women in my life who have taught me that femininity is synonymous with strength, compassion, intelligence, and bold. I am the dream of a woman before me, and I honor them today on International Women's Day. Feliz Día de la Mujer.
Thank you all, and you'll notice that there are peach, yellow, and light pink roses throughout the chamber in recognition of today, but that also reflects colors that represent gratitude, friendship, and appreciation. So we all join you all in celebrating what we have done in this body in particular and in this legislature. We'll go to Assemblywoman Benitez Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Seeing no other business before the body, I would move that the Assembly adjourn until Tuesday, March the 9th, at the hour of 11:30 a.m.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. We are adjourned.